welcome back to the Diamond Show with me, Lucy, Jamie, and Lloyd. I haven't been here for a while. I feel like it's actually been 2 months. I was looking at my phone earlier and I was like, that's really good commitment from me. But actually, we're trying to get it more regular. Like, you're probably shocked we've got another episode out already.
Yeah. The last one was a month's worth of games.
Yeah, literally. Because when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, okay, cool. There's only like 5-6 WSL games to go through. Obviously, we can touch on the Champions League because we've got 2 English sides in there, not doing the best. But I think, you know what, should we just start with the WSL? And the first game was Arsenal 5, Leicester City 1. So another 5-star performance for Arsenal. They're actually on fire. You know what? Before you guys mention anything, I just want to read out some stats real quick. No Arsenal bias here at all. But if you don't support Arsenal, I'm really sorry in advance. Beth Mead, after this game, Beth Mead has now got the best goal conversion rate this season in the WSL. Obviously, this is a dream start to 2025 for Arsenal with 21 points, 19 goals and 7 wins. Kind of got me thinking if Jonas Eidevall left earlier, then could be slightly different for the whole season. And then the final stat is that our last 7 games in the WSL, we've got more than 4 goals in each game. Like 4-0, 5-1, whatever. Yeah. So I'm just going to... That's how I'm going to open the floor today. So, Lloyd, I think we should come to the Liverpool fan. You go ahead.
That's just unbelievable. I mean, to score that amount of goals on a consistent basis is an absolute joke. Yep. I mean, it definitely helped the likes, of course, Chloe Kelly coming in the January transfer window. But yeah, she said Beth Mead, best conversion rate in the league. That's just superb.
And obviously, she's just come back from ACL injury recently. And I think people forget that obviously once you've had that injury, you're a bit more cautious maybe when you're playing on the pitch. So for her to be back getting that conversion rate, I mean, it is 32%, which I don't know, when I saw that, I thought, I don't know, it would be like a lot higher. But then considering when the defences are getting just as good as the attacking right now, in the WSL, I guess you've got to take both into
also, with like the Mead injury we're talking about, I think you see sometimes when she comes into kind of one-on-ones, she is a bit more cautious. She's not as, like almost like reckless, so to speak.
Right.
But one of the stats I wanted to pick up on is Arsenal are the top scorers in the league.
Yeah.
With 54, because Chelsea with 53. But
which is actually crazy because at the start of the season, I feel like Chelsea were just dominating, and then recently they've sort of just dropped off. They've got such a winning mentality, to put it, that they always find that goal, that equaliser or that winner, which I don't know how they do it, but they somehow do that. Yeah. Whereas for us, it feels like if we lose a game, we just lose it. If we win it, we win it by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, Arsenal has said, top scorers, and that's predominantly down to these last 7 games. Because 7 games to score more than 4 goals in each game is ridiculous. And I think, we've conceded maybe 3 in 1 or 2 of them, but the rest of them have been like conceding maybe 1 or no goals. That's ridiculous.
No, literally.
That's such good form.
Literally. I think as well this game, obviously this is the first game of this game week, but it was on last Tuesday, which feels like it was actually like a good 10 days ago. Yeah. And also I found it so weird being on a Tuesday night, but obviously that's because of other fixtures, like to schedule them in. Obviously we've got Ford getting 2, Blackstenius getting 1, Mead getting 1, Palova getting 1 as well, coming back from ACL, so it's her first goal in like a year or something, which is crazy. But I also want to touch on the Leicester goal because I'm kind of frustrated at Zinsberger for that. Because it literally just sort of rolled past her in. And obviously I want to give credit to Leicester City, but then in that game we were dominating, like we've said. We're dominating right now as Arsenal. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the keeper at Arsenal right now?
Should have saved it. It's a big loss without Handelsla. And Zinsberger's always been a good backup keeper.
She definitely is getting way too much hate right now.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I think she's getting too much because at the same time we can also, the defence did switch off. Because, the whole team kind of, we were leading, kind of thought it was done. But, as I said, all credit to Leicester, but it's one of those ones where you look at it and go, the keeper should probably be doing better. We mentioned we're going to talk about the Champions League game as well.
Yeah.
Same thing in terms of, I think if Van Domsela's in goal, we don't concede one, if not both of the goals we conceded against Lyon. Yeah. And this is another thing where you probably wouldn't have conceded that as well. So it is a big loss for Arsenal. But I think Van Donsela's back soon.
Well, I don't know, because originally it was like 6 weeks, and I feel like everyone was like, oh no, like quite hopeful she could come back second leg of the Champions League. It's looking quite unlikely, and I was like, great. So that could be our hopes gone for that. Not really sure, but either way, it's really good for Arsenal focusing on WSL to be doing that well. I mean, when you focus on the league positions, we're in second, and thanks to City and United both drawing this week as well, they're not looking like they actually want to compete for the title. So as much as, yes, Chelsea have pretty much done it, like we saw that last night with their 4-0 win against Palace, we're pretty much getting that second spot, which is, right now, it doesn't seem like a lot, because no matter if we come first, second or third, we're Champions League. But I think it just is really nice to, like, when we start the next season, because that whole month extra that we have just focusing on the league without having the European games. Obviously, we went out against, Paris? In that time. So it's just like we don't have that stress. So I think we need to make sure we get that second
Van Donsar's
position.
yet to go back to training. So she's definitely not coming in for that game. It's
amazing.
It's probably going to be maybe like one of the last games of the season, if not the end. Like, there's only 4 games left. I don't think she's even going to come back for any of those. So it looks like the rest of the season might have to be.
Well, it's not ideal for us.
To be fair, that sounds rude. Because
exactly. That's the thing.
Like, Zinsberger is good, and
she's still a good keeper. Yeah,
like, she's too good to be a second choice keeper.
Yeah.
I think she'd maybe thrive at one of the lower sides in the WSL.
Yeah, well,
or be a starter one in the Championship.
She is still Austria's number one, I'm pretty sure. And she will go to the Euros with Austria. Mm-hmm. And we can't take that away from her. She's still a good keeper. I think it's the same thing with Ramsdale, where it's just the less you play, the less confident you get, the less kind of match sharpness you have. You're not really used to the tempo.
Well, it's when someone new comes in, you either rise to it or you just get forgotten
and then of course the less you play, the more mistakes you're likely to make because you're less sharp in the actual matches. And I think, as I said, she makes some good saves, but it's just like lacks of concentration occasionally that let her down. And as I said, she's still an international goalkeeper and has done brilliantly. But it's just one of those things where you do think Arsenal might go and look to get a different keeper. Mm-hmm. Because
that's I think the only space on the pitch, maybe like the defence, maybe getting another centre back, just so we've got more backup, because we're right now using fullbacks, which obviously you can tell it's not their natural position. So maybe there and then keeper would be the only thing I'd say to improve on. Maybe in the summer. But then the next game was Manchester City 1, Everton 1, and thoughts on this? Because obviously City drawing, and you'd think, right, do you actually want Champions League football or not?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get it at this rate, in all honesty. I think they're just being a bit too inconsistent. That Everton goal, what a ball into the box. Did you see it? It was a brilliant ball in and a great header. And just City, of course, they've been a bit up and down this season, especially recently. I don't think it's going to happen for them.
I think the Champions League knocked confidence out of them, going 3-0 up into the second game against Chelsea and then losing. Mm-hmm. Was it 2 or 3? It was
2-0 up, and
it was 2-0, and then losing 3-0.
Yeah, and they got absolutely
That's not their confidence
in that first half. It was
exactly, and
so one-sided.
They had 19 shots and 7 on target. Everton had 3 and 1, and yet Man City had 62% possession and basically double the amount of passes, over double the amount of passes.
So they are dominating. They're just not clinical.
Exactly, that's the thing. They dominated, but
I'd be gutted if I was a City fan.
If I'm looking at her FOTMOB here at the ratings, I feel like it's harsh because Keating got 6.3. I think that's really harsh on her because I don't think the goal was her fault at all. As I said, it was a great ball into the box. It's a good
header.
She played well throughout the game. I think that's a bit harsh on her, but I think the issue was that left side defensively for Man City, where Everton looked at it and was like, look, that's the weaker side. Any attack, they kind of tried to travel it down there.
Channel,
and it worked, because I think that's from where the cross came in, where they scored from. And I think it was tactically good from Everton, because you're going to Man City. You're not going to have possession. But what they did was they sat back and allowed them to attack and just thought, okay, we can defend.
Yeah.
Which it worked. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, they got the goal.
Sitting
You'd hate to say that, but they got the goal from it.
No,
so.
exactly. They did get the goal from it, and the matter of the fact is, I think that was their only shot on target of the game, and they managed to take it.
Maybe that's why the rating, obviously, for Keating went down, because obviously if she wasn't really being tested, and when she did get tested, it went in.
It went in.
Obviously, you can't put it. I hate when we all put it on the blame fully just on the keeper.
Yeah,
it's obviously got down the pitch. It's travelled that far, but you've got to think that
she made no saves
was like
all
the
game.
last.
Yeah. So you don't have a shot, you can't really get a rating, can you?
Another moment. Another key player for City who has basically, in my opinion, this season been the most clinical player for them. I think Miedema's had her spells, but obviously she's still recovering from injury, and then always sort of in and out. I do think Mary Fowler, her with her ACL injury now, that's a big blow for
it's a
City.
massive loss.
And I feel like that potentially with obviously Shaw missing games as well, Miedemar, and then now Fowler, it's looking quite unpredictable where City will actually finish in the league. So what are your thoughts, obviously, on like the ACL situation? Because I feel like this is a continuous thing that keeps happening, especially in the women's game.
It's far too much. It's just happening all the time. Like these great players are getting injured and then they're out for a year, and it's at such a rate that's just not normal. It shouldn't.
Basically,
shouldn't be
every week
happening.
you get one or two players. You know, Miedemar, look how good she was before the ACL injury. Not saying she's not back there now, but she's not at that level she was before. I think the issue of Man City now is they're having to have a makeshift striker. You look at the quality they have. They've got Shaw, they've got Miedemar. They're putting Caroline up front, who is a winger, who's kind of just gone, look, because of injuries and because players have to, you have to rest players.
Yeah.
I think if you look at most positions, I think you could probably make maybe 2 or 3 starting 11s with players who have suffered ACL injuries over the past maybe 2 years. That's ridiculous. It's a massive question in terms of what does it come down to. You know, people look at boots, whether it's training, whether it's movement, whether it's just the way people are built. But it's got to be something.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, there's so many reasons as to why this happened. I remember at uni doing so many assignments based on this, thinking, right, what are the actual solutions? And all of these articles I'd be reading, they'd all say, well, there's not one.
Yeah.
And that's why it's still continuous.
Yeah.
Everything is different.
Not enough research into the female anatomy as a whole. So we mentioned, obviously, before we started filming about Ida and their football boots that they're doing. And I think it's also for other sports as well, like you mentioned rugby as well. And it's just really good because it's basically, I had a little photo up, and it basically just says how they're changing the boot. So it's basically better suited for a woman. So like me wearing a football boot should be different to how you two would wear a football boot.
The top of it's wider, isn't it? It will less pressure on the ankle and the whole muscle. Yeah.
And then it's like narrow at the heel as well. These things you just wouldn't even think about.
No, exactly. But then at the same time, it's also women should be wearing boots that are designed for women to help their performance and prevent injury. Like that should just be a given. And
because I think with
it's not.
like the actual our physical anatomy is different in terms of the hips are wider, so then when you're going into the ground, I'm pretty sure I read like then your knees sort of go in, so then you're more likely.
Yeah.
But I think obviously there's so many reasons, like the actual pitches itself, the quality we know we've seen with the Champions League where it was literally a water, like it was basically a pond at that point, and then with the Subway Cup final that was so dry. Like we've seen so many different
the ball as well. I think they said they're
going
to try and they're going to not decrease the size of the ball, but kind of almost take something to do with the air in the ball. They were saying that there was a bit less air in the ball because the women use different football to the men.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is there's a bit less air, which of course will make a ball heavier, which means when you're kicking it, it's heavier, puts more pressure, especially on the knee and ankle. So you see a lot of, as well as ACL, you see a lot of like ligament and tendon issues, like around the ankle. Achilles is quite a big one, and it was down to the way the boots were made and the football just weren't working together. So the boots would put more pressure. As we said, it was thinner at the top, so it's putting more pressure on that part of your foot. But the ball's heavier, so that kind of defeats the point because you're putting even more pressure on top of what was already it's one of those things where, as you said, there's so many factors that you almost can't have one solution for everything. But I think
it's good to see initiatives actually trying to make that change at least.
Exactly. There's an increase in technology, increase of funding can hopefully, help that. Because, you look at like Arsenal, Chelsea, City, they train in facilities that are incredible. The facilities they have are able. You look at lower down the leagues, you look at maybe Crystal Palace that might not have the same quality of facility because they have less funding. Then you look at Championship.
Even grassroots,
Exactly. It's one of those things where if someone suffers an ACL in grassroots, they're
probably not coming back.
Exactly. You probably you don't have a club paying for you, backing you. What you've got is you've got to try and find a way of
and it's
getting
so expensive.
It yourself.
Like I know friends that have been in maybe tier 5 and 6 and they've had ACLs and then it's sort of like you can't really come back unless you give it 2-3 years, and by that point that could be crucial in your development as a player, because you've either missed out on an age.
It could be up to like £5,000 or
or
£6,000 you're paying for a surgery.
Like no one just has that. Well, I mean, some people might, but it's like
majority
The
of
average,
people
generally
the
don't.
average
people don't
person
have
who's
just
playing
lying
football
around.
is not exactly going to have
Literally.
that. And, you know, as I said, it has to be pretty much done privately, because NHS will take a long time because they're so full. But it's one of those situations where we're looking at it and going, we need to start investing more into research, as you said, into the female anatomy to work out what can we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I feel like this, sadly, is going to be such an ongoing conversation because, I mean, we've already spoken about, we've done, 4 episodes, and I feel like each one we've sort of touched upon, there's a new person who's been injured, or like we mentioned earlier in this episode, Palova's come back from her ACL. Beth Mead and Miedemar came back. It's continuous, which is sad, but at least we're having these conversations, because I feel like that wasn't being had before. So then, awareness is important.
One other thing I want to touch on actually is as well, you have, you know, Euros coming up, World Cups. If you're going into these kind of competitions, you know, of course, you know, we're wanting the women's game to grow. To have that, you need the best players. If you're going into these tournaments with the world's best players out with ACL injuries or out with injuries, you're losing, you know, you're losing them from this tournament, and that's massive in terms of the growth of the women's game.
No, definitely.
Because, you know, if you're going to watch a World Cup and you're, you know, go to watch Brazil and you expect Marta to play, if she's out with an ACL injury, you're missing out on a massive fan
Don't
base.
jinx that one. We better touch with.
Exactly. But, you know, you're missing out on a massive fan base that's brought, you know, footballers have a massive following. And if we're missing Shaw, if we're missing Miedemar...
I mean, we literally did see it with the World Cup.
Yeah.
Leah Williamson was out and Beth Mead, and they both had ACL. So it is... Seeing them on the side when obviously Williamson led England to the first trophy in God knows how many years, it's frustrating to see them on the side when it's something they can't do. And I feel like watching players now, I don't know if you guys are the same, but when I see any player go down, and like no one's around them, I literally automatically I'm like, it's an ACL. I think it happened when we were at the Lyon game. And I think I don't know if it was Williamson went down at one point, and I was like, no. I was like, get up. And after a couple of minutes, she got up and she was walking. Everyone was clapping, because it was almost that sigh of relief. Like, okay, this isn't an ACL, but we don't know when the next one will happen. And obviously with Mary Fowler in the City game, she seemed to be the next one, and I just hope her recovery's as quick as it can be, so that ahead of next season she's back, because City will definitely need her, especially after the end of this season, because it's sort of looking like there was a lot of hope, and then it's all sort of come crashing down with coming out of quite a few competitions in one go. From that game as well, though, I want to touch on Kasparai, who got the goal. I'd love her celebration, obviously kissing her armband, which has the trans flag colours on, and I just think that's so important. And I know people are like, you need to keep politics out of football, but politics is in football, because we are all human beings, so we have human rights, and that's where politics come into it, and how you live your life and how you choose to. And obviously, being a trans person right now, the world is against you because of new laws, which obviously I'm assuming you guys agree that they shouldn't be happening. No one should be able to have that power over what makes you
100%.
however you choose to identify. So I think it's just really nice when you see the players actually showing their support and allyship for those fans as well. And I just really like Kasparai. Obviously on the pitch he's excelling, but also then sending out a message to fans like to keep doing you. And I think that is something that in the women's game it makes it even more inclusive. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but when you see acts like this and celebrations like that, I mean, we obviously saw Ruben Moy do her Gunners celebration as well, which was obviously in sign language. So I think it's just nice to see these little moments and actions that might not seem like a lot, because it's like 1 second and it's over, but it has such a big impact. I think I've seen Kasparai kissing the armband like multiple times each day over the last week since that game, and I think that is like the impact will last and last.
Yeah, the social media impact's massive.
100%.
I think the main thing as well for us is the inclusion. You know, you're including people. So, for example, the kind of celebration of sign language, you're reaching out to an audience. I think, was it Dan Byrne did it for Newcastle?
I believe so.
You're reaching out to an audience that will feel marginalised and feel like there's not that representation. You know, we had the conversation about the like black players and lack of representation. You know, we could have the same exactly the same conversation, but based on the representation of everybody else. You know,
like
you look at transgender, you look at everything, sexuality. You look at all of that can be under the same thing. And I think, as I said, sometimes if we talk about I've forgotten the word now. Oh, when we talk about this, like equal opportunities and stuff, sometimes it does get a bit overbranched by black and ethnic minority, but we need to remember that there is, of course, deaf and transgender, sexuality. All of this is as important, and it's good to see that players are taking the initiative themselves instead of having people asking them to do it. They're doing it because they want to. I think it's great to see, and it's important because, as we said before, they have so much power over how people think, how people act and everything. It's good to see that. If you see people being respected, you're going to respect people yourself.
No, definitely. I think also it's a perfect time for City to do a celebration like that, because at a time where almost you'd feel quite disconnected from the club's not succeeding as much as they were in the previous months. So at a time like this, to really connect with a fan base, and I think trans people make up less than like 1% of the population, but there is still those people that will exist in those fan bases. So it's so good that anyone watching the WSL will look on the Instagram page and be like, yeah, okay, we're seen, we can follow this.
Yeah, we want to support this team. And it's the fact that she went away and saw that this was all going on in the past week and said, I'm gonna do something to show my support in the game. And of course she scored the goal, which is brilliant. And yeah, it's a simple gesture, as you said, but it means so much to a lot of people. And the fact that she's gone ahead and shown that support, I think is brilliant. More people should be doing what she's gone ahead and done.
No, definitely. So yeah, I feel like we're all big fans of her right now.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel
massive
like I've
fan.
been a big fan of her this whole season.
Yeah, she's been a very solid fullback, like in her performances. But yeah, for her to do that, it means a massive amount to a lot of people. I really rate it.
Definitely. Moving on to, I feel like we're actually covering quite a few teams equally this week. Maybe it's good not having all three Arsenal fans.
Fair
so
enough.
Not me being here last week was good for you guys, and now obviously wants Keane back.
It doesn't help that Arsenal keep winning like by ridiculous scorelines.
Yeah,
so, it's not exactly.
Don't worry, we'll get onto the Champions League fixtures in a bit, so that will dampen the mood. But the next game, Tottenham 2, Villa 3, and what were your thoughts on it? Because it's pretty much, apart from obviously the Arsenal game, the most high scoring game, but also quite even.
What a game, first of all.
Yeah,
great game.
There was a lot to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a lot at stake as well, because you look at both teams. We spoke about last episode with Tottenham not on the best of runs. They could, we all said they could easily lose the game.
Yeah.
However, we then also mentioned Aston Villa haven't exactly been any better.
Yeah.
And could also lose. So it did seem like it was a very balanced game. I think we will all agree that this is probably got the safety for Aston Villa.
Yeah, it's fully secure.
They had more to fight for, definitely.
I think for Palace.
I think. However, I just want to touch on Tottenham because it's another loss. It is in their last 5.
I think we should just talk about that for the rest of the episode, actually.
They haven't.
Just really big it up, laugh it up.
No, honestly,
in their demise.
They haven't won since the 26th of January.
Wow.
What date was that? Just keep repeating it.
That's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7. That's 8 games without a win.
Terrible. That's really bad.
The best they got was a draw away at Leicester, and the rest are all losses.
That's really poor.
That's terrible. That's what I mean in terms of they could easily,
What does that come down to? Like, because for me, I think it's the manager.
Yeah.
And the decision making. There's no game plan going into these games. I mean, you look at this game, Tottenham were losing in the first half because there was no game plan whatsoever, and then suddenly they have a comeback, but it almost feels too late, and I feel like that's a repeated thing.
They still
for them.
conceded the 91st minute as well. They came back and still threw it away.
No, literally.
But for me, it's one of those things where I just think Tottenham rely too much on one player.
Yep.
They rely on England, they rely on Naz, and it's the only 2 players.
Yeah.
And even in that 5-0 loss at the Emirates we watched, Naz was the best player on the pitch, by a mile. And
I thought she was very hidden in that game. But I think we, as Arsenal, I keep saying we. I think Arsenal really isolated Naz because you knew that was their star player.
I think that's the point, though. The fact that there's so much time was spent on her, and you could tell that she was making the runs. It's not about the quality of the rest of the players, but I just think these 2 are such a step above that if they're not on it as much, the rest of the team really relies on that.
Even Martha Thomas, who I feel like it's sort of Bethany England, Martha Thomas were the 2 goal scoring players. Then obviously with England out, it puts more pressure on Thomas. But then I think as the opposition, you know that, so you know where the ball's going to be going.
Yeah.
And it's
Thomas
so
had a
you
poor
can't
game,
be
but that's the
relying.
thing.
Exactly.
We were saying to rely on her,
you can't
but
be relying on these players. Obviously, there are players in the WSL you'd expect for them to show up
Yeah.
on a weekly basis. That's their job, but then it is even more responsibility.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I said it a couple of weeks ago when we were doing the Diamond Show again, and it was I was looking at the starting 11 for the Tottenham game. What game was it? I think it might have been the Leicester City game. But for this game against Aston Villa, the starting 11 have a combined total of 8 goals.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah,
that's,
I watched back this episode, and when you said that, I was like, wow.
yeah.
I was like,
it's
this
just,
is why I came today with some Arsenal
it's
stats,
just-
because I was like, this.
Yeah, I looked at it.
That's-
I'm just
yeah.
looking at it now, and it's like, you know, Naz obviously, like she's
Yeah.
got 2, Holt's got 1, Sumanen's got 2, Spencer's got 2, Morris has got 1, and then that's it. No one else has contributed.
Morris actually is one player
scoring
that I feel
goals.
like doesn't get enough credit or
Yeah.
enough recognition. She's doing really well for Spurs. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. Just 8.
8 goals,
Eight
in a
goals.
starting 11.
I'm
Like,
pretty sure that's what were you saying? We got 54.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even
and I feel like Mariona Caldenti probably is. She's got to have more than 8. Just her.
yeah, no,
she
Like
is.
it's in when you look at the difference in the high end of the table, like top end, and it's not only from one creative outlet. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of players that are getting above that. So it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
one or two players will have more than that combined.
definitely.
One of the players I wanted to pick up on was Kirsty Hansen.
Yeah.
Came on, got the winner. Great substitution, honestly, because I feel like look, Aston Villa dominated the beginning of the game. I think they kind of had a mentality of that they'd already won the game, and you know they kind of stepped off it. That's where Tottenham took their chances. As soon as Hansen came on, the game turned again, and you could tell that Aston Villa, if someone was going to score, it would have been Villa. And I think it was such a kind of like an inspired substitution where you
like
could tell that
game changer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could tell that she was getting into positions, she was getting chances, and you could tell that, as I said, if someone scored, it would be Villa, but it would be her. She
Yeah.
came on and automatically made a difference.
She's been a
And
great
yeah,
player for
I would say yeah, she's been great, and I think she's been one of the main reasons as well why they're now safe from relegation. When it's come down to it, they haven't been great, but she's kind of definitely helped them take the step they need for survival. And as I said, they've got it now.
No, definitely. I think that also does come down to the decision making from the manager. Obviously, you're saying with Spurs,
Yeah.
he didn't really think of a game plan going into it. Whereas Villa, you could tell that they were like, right, okay, when can we bring on this sub?
Yeah.
So
We
it's,
feel Villa away as well. It was
yeah,
at
no,
Tottenham.
exactly.
And it's
yeah.
back-to-back wins for Villa
Yeah.
now, because obviously
Yeah.
they did beat
They've got a
Liverpool
bit
the
of
game
momentum,
before.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing that one up? That is weird.
The one thing I did want to point out, though, I think it's interesting because if it was a bit more, I think if it was a bit more competitive towards the bottom of the league, where Crystal Palace are down, they're on 9 points. I feel like if it was a bit more competitive, I could easily see a team like Tottenham slipping up and just getting relegated. Kind of, as I said, 8
If
without
2
a
or
win.
3 teams went down,
Yeah.
I feel like these games.
If it was a
Like,
bottom
there's
2,
so many
I
draws
would
this
say.
week. I feel like people would.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're trying. Like the players want it, but when you're fighting for positions, like Villa are actually fighting.
Yeah.
That's why when you're saying you could tell they were going to win. It's because they actually need to win.
Yeah, but the thing is that they're now only 2 points off Tottenham in ninth. So if there was 2 relegation spaces after the next game, Tottenham could be in that relegation zone. And as I said, if it was a bit more competitive with Palace, of course, there's a massive quality gap. But if it was more competitive, as I said, I could easily see a team like Tottenham just slipping up, because I don't see them winning another game this season.
Yeah.
So
That's where it is frustrating, the structure with the women's game, because
Yeah.
you want to. I know obviously there were rumours that the WPL came in and they were thinking of maybe having 2 demoted,
Yeah.
2 promoted, like that sort of vibe. And obviously that nothing has come from that. Like I don't know if that was rumours or what that was.
yeah,
But it's sort of ideas like this, like we need something fresh with the women's
Yeah.
game. But then it's how do you build it over time, because you don't want it to be Crystal Palace go back up, London City Lionesses,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whoever, or Newcastle go up, like whatever championship side ends up going up and then they go straight back down. It is the yo-yo effect. I mean, we see it in the Premier League though.
yeah.
So it's
yeah.
not just solely with the WSL, but all the teams that are going up are going straight
Going
back
straight
down.
back
Exactly.
down.
And it'll probably happen again with Burnley and Leeds going up this season.
Yeah.
Then they'll probably end up going back, and it's just
It's so
it's so
difficult,
tricky.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really, really tough, I think, when you're looking at the relegation, because if you do get more teams relegated, that will affect the whole football pyramid as well. It doesn't
Yeah.
just
Yep.
affect the one league.
Yeah.
It affects the championship. It affects all the divisions below. And it does become a problem when you see the same teams getting promoted and then relegated year after year after year. because you want to see an exciting relegation battle. You
Yeah.
want to see these teams
Yeah.
who have been in the league in a while, all of a sudden, they've got a bit of jeopardy. They could be getting relegated. You know, it's exciting. You go to the final day of the season. I love seeing relegation battles and fights for the title on the final day. If my team's involved, then obviously I'm a lot more nervous.
Yeah.
And
As a
but
neutral, it's amazing.
as a neutral,
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
amazing watch because anything can happen. So, yeah, it is an issue, but I don't know what the answer is, in
I
all
think
honesty.
there's no repercussion in terms of, look, it's never good seeing like a big club go down, big name go down, but you know, Tottenham have picked up 1 point out of a possible 24, and you're telling me,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Right.
and you're telling me that they're still exactly safe.
Were you sat there, sorry, just working that out?
I had to
Because
work-
I was looking over every so often.
No,
and
I had
was like,
I had to
okay.
work it out,
6,
but
9.
What? Like, just-
but what it is, right, is, you know, this is the thing. There's no repercussion for that. So that's the worst form in the league by a country mile. Like, I think even Palace have got better form than that, and
Yeah.
yet.
But
Yeah.
there's no
and yeah,
consequences.
exactly. There's no that's the word I was
And
looking
then
for.
that's the
It's
thing.
consequence.
It's the same.
Oh,
Same vibe.
okay, fair enough.
Um,
Yeah, because they've
Embarrass yourself, girl.
they've as I said, yeah, they haven't won in 8,
Yeah.
and yet they could lose the rest of the games of the season and they're still safe.
But then the thing is, obviously you're fighting for different positions, but when you're not obviously competing for the top 3, I think the other positions, it comes down to, okay, next season would a player want to come to you, and it's about how attractive does your club look. Right now, going to Liverpool, I think looks more attractive than obviously going to like a Spurs.
Yeah.
But then I'd say Brighton probably is more attractive than a Liverpool, because Brighton, they've got quite a few loaney players,
Yeah.
But it's-
who obviously, they played.
There's still only there's only a 6-point difference between Liverpool and Tottenham. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
that
It's
is-
still so tight.
It is
It's
tight,
literally
yeah.
it's still only 2 games.
Mhm.
I think that's
Tottenham
because
can win
it's
the next 2
limited, the
games and
amount
jump
of
over
games.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is interesting, because the next game is Tottenham Liverpool. If Tottenham win that game and
Which
then
they won't. Which they
Well, we're all hoping
Well,
they don't.
yeah,
I don't know why you're acting like,
okay,
they must.
never mind. They've got Chelsea next, so maybe not. But if they were to
Good.
pick up a draw or something and then pick up Everton, if you were to lose the rest of your games, that could easily switch.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
no, it's possible. I see what you're saying.
But it's one of those things where it's almost like you can't have that form. I don't want to say you deserve to go down, but with that kind of form, you do deserve to be
I think
looking at a bit worried.
I know obviously you're
you
thinking
know.
consequence being a whole like dropping down
Yeah.
to the championship, but I think
At
their
least fighting
consequence
for
is
it.
that loads of players will leave. You've already seen Grace Clinton leave last season. Like, they've had a few players go, and
Yeah.
who would actually want to join? So it's sort of
yeah. If you
Yeah.
see, if you
Sort
see
of
a club
debate.
going like that,
Yeah.
when you're a player, you're not gonna
you're not
go
going to
ahead
oh,
of
I'm
it
gonna
and think,
let
you
me
know
get on
what,
that.
I'm gonna join.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at the team that
Yeah,
might be
well,
soaring
the
up
likes
and
of
going
England and
further.
Naz are going to want to leave.
Yeah,
Like, they're
Naz
already
will
good.
get snatched up.
Just
Another
Naz
player
will,
as
yeah.
well definitely is Olivia Smith.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Oh,
going on to the Liverpool
yeah.
game now, Brighton 1, Liverpool 2. I feel like, Olivia Smith is just... I'm
She's
going to
so
let you
good.
take it
So
take it
good,
away.
so good. The ball in from Kerry Holland was absolutely brilliant as well to the back post. But yeah, she's just great. It's her 7th WSL goal of the season. Without her, we would be
Nearly more than Spurs' whole team.
yeah, exactly.
there.
But like, we would be so much further down the league table if it wasn't for her. She's just got that star quality about her, and you see all these teams getting linked. Please stay in the summer. I don't know whether it's likely or not, but
But that is the issue. Like, I'm like, jokingly saying, Olivia Smith will probably get
Yeah.
snatched up and taken by another team, but she probably will.
Yeah.
That's a sad reality, and she's such a young
But
player.
I feel like she
then
won't play.
she'll
as
sit on
well.
the bench,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you want them to be developing.
She
Yeah.
is 20 years old and has 7 goals in 17 in the league.
yeah,
That's incredible for
Yeah.
and she started I think her first game she was 19 when she made her first appearance.
yeah.
It's actually crazy.
She's incredible.
Oh, she's been
so just think
unbelievable.
where she will be, but
Yeah.
I hope
If she continues playing.
she stays at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
of
think it would
course.
be so good for them to be able to attract. Like, we're talking about clubs being attractive. It's
Yeah.
not even just where they are on the table. It's actually what players do you have.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
players would you want to work around? And I feel like if you're a midfielder, you want to be like, I want lots of assists next season.
Exactly.
Let me go, because Olivia Smith is where you need her.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
always there, like
Her
on the end of
pace
that
is
ball.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
is. I think she's one of by far the fastest in the league.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Might
I
need to
think
fact check that one, but she's
I'm
definitely.
I'm
she's
pretty
definitely
sure.
gotta be one of
yeah,
them.
she's quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I think you look at the Liverpool squad and it plays to her ability. You know, the Liverpool like to try and play a ball in behind where she'll get onto it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's how it happened here. You know, you're play a ball round because you have someone who's so fast. I think it helps the team so much. I said, taking the lead in 2 minutes helps take control of the game, and Liverpool were pretty.
Yeah,
it was a pretty even game, but you guys just took your chances.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I think we at the end of the day we had less possession, but we played the better football and we capitalised on a Brighton mistake for the second goal. And it's also I'm a massive fan of Herbinger, always have been. It's just nice to see her get a run of consistent fixtures. I know she didn't start in a game against Arsenal a little while ago, but since then she's sort of been getting for 70, 80 minutes constantly. And under Matt Beard, she's in for a game, then she's out for a game.
Yeah, inconsistent.
It was a bit inconsistent, and I was like, it must have been a tactical reason from Matt Beard, but I just thought she's one of our best players. Like, play her, give her the minutes that she deserves.
I feel like managers are almost too scared to play certain players together, and I'm like, just try it.
Yeah,
and obviously it's working, so like it's good now that she's getting that.
She was definitely one of our best players last season, and she's been again. She's been one of our best players this season as well, I think. I just really like her as a midfielder, and I'm just glad to see her that she's getting the minutes that she needs.
Yeah, I really want to highlight the wingers for Liverpool in this game.
Yeah.
Holland and Kiernan, both incredible.
Yeah.
Both absolutely just dominated Brighton. Every time they went forward, Liverpool looked like they were going to score, predominantly down to these two. You always see it in a team where if you have wingers who are just consistently happy to run at players and put the defenders under pressure, you force mistakes and you force pressure. What I liked from this game was the press from Liverpool started so high, and normally you see it was with the striker, but it started from the wingers. As soon as the ball went out to the left or the right, you saw one of them was straight on it. And I think you don't see that in today's game as much. You do see kind of a lot less of a high press in the women's game, at least. You see a lot less of a high press coming from the front three. It's normally just one player. But I think
they're like having to run between.
Yes, you have one player.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that in this game, that Liverpool front three were maybe 3 or 4 yards ahead. They were all on the edge of the penalty area. As soon as that ball was passed out short, and I don't know why Brighton kept doing it, but as soon as that ball was passed out short, there was a Liverpool player on them. And I think that's something that, you've got quite a young front three. They're gaining so much experience doing that, and I think
it's good to do it against the sides where that they're not competing for the title. That makes sense. I mean, to be fair, saying that though, obviously Liverpool, they deserve their flowers, but I feel like Brighton, they do have some good players. Obviously,
that's what I was going to say.
Arsenal player who is on loan, Michelle Adjumang, she is literally
scored again.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she scored for England as well. I feel like you guys.
That was a ridiculous goal that she scored.
That was 3 touches.
It was crazy.
Her first 3 touches.
That was crazy, but then it's so good to see her doing it at Brighton. I mean, from a selfish point of view, when she comes back to Arsenal, whether that's next year or hopefully when she comes back, she would have had so much game time. Like, she literally was playing 90 minutes. I saw she had 2 chances on goal, and obviously she scored 1. So it's just, she is looking like such a promising player. I think she's going to be definitely the next big thing for England and whatever WSL club she ends up at, because I feel like anyone would want her right now. So I think obviously we need to credit Olivia Smith and the whole Liverpool squad, but I do think this game reflected sort of in the scoreline. It was only 1 goal in it.
Yeah. No, it was relatively close for sure. And Amber Whiteley, since she's come in and managed 8 games, 4 wins, 4 losses. I'm pretty happy with that. Relatively to say the least.
I mean, when you look at it, the WSL only really has 2 halves anyways.
No,
isn't it?
exactly. So I'm buzzing with it. It's just unfortunately we got, just looking at the 8 games that we've had some tough fixtures in there as well. I think we've played Arsenal twice. We've played Man United.
You beat us one of them as well. In the
exactly,
FA Cup,
and we've played Chelsea. There's been some tough games in there. So the fact that we've got 4 wins out of it, I couldn't be happier, really.
No, definitely.
Just one thing I wanted to say as well was looking once again at the football rating. Akamang is so much better than the rest of the team, at least in this game. No one else has got above, I want to say about 6.7. She's there. She's on a 7.5.
Yeah.
But
you can tell. That's why I was like,
she's a standout player. Yeah, she is standout, and I think, as you mentioned, I almost want to see her go out on loan again, because I don't want her
still with Brighton.
Or another club similar of a kind of similar level, because I don't want to see her come to Arsenal and just sit on the bench and not play. Either she comes to Arsenal and pushes for that first team spot and gets that.
I'm not sure if that's too likely right now.
Or she gets that rotation.
Yeah.
or she goes out on loan again, possibly back to Brighton or another club, even like Liverpool or someone, where she's playing week in, week out, and she is the starting striker.
Yeah.
Because she clearly has the quality. You've scored an England debut, you're playing for England,
Literally.
you've been Brighton's best player. She deserves it. And
I think Brighton would definitely be a good spot for
I
her
think if
next
she
season.
went on loan for another year,
Yeah.
I think the player she'd come back, if she continues this form, the player she comes back the season after is going to be incredible.
Yeah. It's exciting though. I'm excited to see all these young players. Obviously, I'm just conscious of time a bit. We have 2 more games to get through. West Ham, Manchester United. I didn't actually watch this game because it sort of clashes with everything else. So it clashed with the Champions League. But I don't feel like it was too much of a loss because it was literally a 0-0 game.
Yeah.
United not really showing that they want to be competing for Champions League. Obviously, they kind of got lucky that earlier on the week, City. Obviously drew as well. So they are still third, but like we were saying earlier, you want to becoming second, like you need second place over third, because otherwise, I don't know, you're going to have to play an extra month of Champions League football and just things like that. So yeah, what were your thoughts? Did either of you watch the game?
Well, I didn't watch the game, but I did see the highlights. And,
Yeah, I feel like we all just watch
same.
highlights.
I'm pretty
Didn't miss much.
I'm glad, obviously, that Man United are dropping points. I'd
Yeah.
rather Arsenal get that second position so that you guys get, so they have to play an extra month and stuff like that. But all in all, I like they did have 17 shots. Shots. The West Ham United goalkeeper made some great saves as well to keep it at 0-0. And it's good to see, as we've said previously, like the teams further down the league table being able to compete with the teams towards the top, and that was shown again. I thought
Shemmick was great in goal.
Yeah, like you're looking at Manchester United. Obviously, they're in the top 3. They're going to be pushing for the Champions League, as we've said. They most likely are going to get it, aren't they?
Yeah.
They will get top 3 because City are 7 points
Unless
behind.
they literally like lose all of it
all
and
their
then City
games.
win, which is
Yeah, I don't think that's
quite
very
unlikely.
likely.
I do want to pick up on, I know United had 17 shots, but only 5 on target. For a club chasing that second place, that's not good enough.
It's not even like they've got the Champions League to focus on.
Well, exactly.
No.
They 5 shots on target from 17 is a really poor rate. That's awful. And I think you've got to look at it and go, okay, right, they have good players, yes. But the problem is, I think in this game, there was... Okay, in football you have, it's team sport, of course. But sometimes you need individuals to take charge and go, look, just like, settle the rest of the team. What happened with Man United was they were missing these chances and getting more, agitated as they were missing it. And the level of football just dropped. So they just started shooting from, 20, 30 yards when, if someone's like got a free pass to you.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't make sense. It was like there was almost nobody on the pitch that took control. The manager didn't decide to say anything. But
And he kind of gets a bit of hate as well anyways.
Yes,
exactly. And it's one of those things where I think he probably should have made some changes. If you see that 1 or 2 players are, even if you're better players, if you see 1 or 2 of them are getting a little bit stressed out, take them off. And he did, with Ella too, and he took her off in the 70th minute. But I feel like it was almost too late by then.
Yeah.
Because you'd already had, 65 minutes where you could see what was happening. She was getting the ball and having a shot from 20, 30 yards.
I feel like she is their like standout player. So sort of with Spurs, if they're not performing, then it's
difficult.
It falls down to who's going to actually cover.
Yeah.
Also, they're obviously through to the final of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Obviously, a different competition, but that's not till the end of the season. So I'm like, it's kind of crazy that they could have this season, like where we obviously perform a lot better as Arsenal, we perform better than United, but they could come home with silverware. I think it is quite likely that United could actually do well in this final. Whereas if we obviously don't win the Champions League, then we have nothing to show for the season.
We look at the,
this is why I find it crazy. Like even with the men's,
that's what I was gonna say.
like with United
last year.
Yeah, like Ten Hag, everyone was like, get him out, he's so bad. And then it's like, well, actually, he's got more silverware that season than most other clubs.
They won the FA Cup. They literally won the FA Cup.
But then still get rid of him, so I'm like...
But also, they won the FA Cup in a season where we were saying it's one of their worst seasons in history. They still won silverware.
And I feel like the women could definitely do that. So although right now we're... I mean, from this game, West Ham, I think they've recorded one of their best streaks at home because they've got 2 wins, 2 draws and 1 loss at home in 2025. And for them, considering start of the season, I thought they could be going down.
Yeah.
I thought them, Palace or Villa. Actually, not really Villa. To be honest. I thought it was just mostly them or Palace.
Yeah.
I think
would be
Leicester
going
were kind of
down.
expected to
Yeah.
roughly go down, but
But like
yeah.
they seem to have turned it around. I think it's definitely January signings, but also United just not showing up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
If your big players don't step up, you need the others around the team to rely on, and if it doesn't happen, it's going to cost you points, and it's going to cost you potentially just automatically qualifying.
Exactly.
It's very true, very true. I think we should literally touch on this for like 30 seconds. Chelsea 4, Crystal Palace 0. Not really too much to say. Expected that one.
Can I just read the stats out for the game? So 70% possession for Chelsea.
Amazing.
30 shots.
Yep.
7 on target. Crystal Palace.
That's actually quite poor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
okay.
great. It's not
Crystal
great.
Palace. 0 shots. 0 on target. Absolutely wiped the floor with them. Of course, the red card didn't help. But
Which we were
that was
saying, like
very
Lloyd and I were
harsh.
saying,
It was
that
not-
just
it wasn't-
yeah,
it
that
wasn't.
was
Yeah.
not. I
It
don't
wasn't a
even,
red
yeah,
card.
I don't even understand how that came about.
it's a harsh one.
Not like
honestly.
they needed the red card anyway. They were still
No.
going to win.
They were 3-0 down by then anyway.
Like-
Literally, they could have like 20 players on the pitch and it was not
Yeah,
making a
Yeah,
difference.
exactly.
but I do want to pick up on Coutinho, the striker,
Mm-hmm.
for Chelsea. Absolutely, like what a player!
Mm-hmm.
Like I think a lot of people thought that Kerr being out, they're going to miss her quite a lot.
They've literally got
They've-
so many backups.
they've
ste-
they-
Eva Jones.
They've stepped up. I think the way they're playing as a team is better without Kerr. Like the
Yeah,
way they've stepped up as a
feel
team has been
like
incredible. I've
As a
forgotten
viewer,
about her.
Yeah, I was like, as a viewer, you kind of,
Forget about her.
yeah. I don't know, maybe it's because it's not my club, so I'm not as invested. Like, oh my god, when's she coming
No, but
back?
I've
But I'm
spoken,
actually
I've spoken
like,
to Chelsea fans who are like, we forget that she's there.
Yeah.
Of course, I think Lauren James is out for the rest of the season now.
yes.
Yeah,
Which
it's a loss.
is a massive loss, but they've put themselves in a position where it's a massive loss, and
But in terms of WSL, they
the
don't
league's
need
done.
it. I mean, week on week, they're literally creating history. I mean, and breaking like every single record. Obviously, after last night's win, they're now unbeaten in their last 21 WSL matches. So that's 18 wins and 3 draws.
It's crazy.
Goodness.
That
me.
is like a crazy stat, and I feel like the WSL are just editing the same post each week.
Yeah.
Like, okay, another game unbeaten, another game, and it's so predictable.
Yeah, I
at
mean,
this
the only
point.
thing that brought them down to earth was the humbling defeat.
Yes,
at
let's move on to that real
Barcelona.
quick.
Oh,
Yes.
we might as well touch on
you
it.
both want
4-1.
to talk about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
humbled, absolutely.
I mean, to be fair, okay, wait, let's do it chronologically because we went to the Lyon game together,
Yes.
Arsenal-Lyon at the Emirates, and obviously we, as Arsenal fans, weren't too happy with the result because it was 2-1 to Lyon.
Yeah.
And I came away feeling like, oh my God, we've really lost out on this.
Yeah.
Chelsea are going to go through to that final. Even though I was like, I know Barca's history, I know their
Yeah.
calibre, that they are such a good side.
I just want to pick up in that game as well, actually.
But yeah, no, let's
one
chat
thing I
about
want to
that
talk about that game is not even just from an Arsenal point of view, right? This is just from football itself. The quality of refereeing in a Champions League semi-final was shocking.
Yeah, shocking.
It was awful, and that's not just as an Arsenal fan, but both teams. The amount of fouls that were being let go from both teams, the decisions that were being given.
The one
Predominantly,
decision, you know,
it
the
didn't
Lee
make
Williamson
sense.
header.
Yeah,
Like, this is where we're saying, like, there's no bias. I don't, like, it was a penalty.
it was
But it's
hard.
the fact that Williamson got up, because obviously
It's a controversial
their keeper,
one.
like, punched her in the head. So, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously that is
yeah.
a penalty, but, like, and she didn't get the ball at all. But Williamson just sort of got up and just carried on.
Just
and
carried
then
on.
suddenly they went, Via, and we were literally
No
like,
one
"What?
called for it.
What's going
Nobody
on?
called for a
Yeah.
penalty.
Literally.
Literally, nobody asked for it. The players didn't. The fans didn't.
We
No-
just went, oh, okay.
everyone
come
thought.
on, like,
Everyone genuinely thought she just missed the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's interesting is you look at the offside, and it's something I want to touch on because the rule is if the defender's ahead, they're onside. Fine. But what I don't understand is, have you seen the replay of the offside?
Isn't it literally a hand?
It's
or
literally.
some-
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure Lily showed me yesterday. It's literally like here.
Is this a new rule? I feel
Oh.
like, is this a new rule or something, though? Like, it's just
I
your
don't
hand,
know
like,
because they haven't got the semi-automated in.
I find that if it's just the hand,
It's literally here, so you can't even play with that.
No, exactly.
It's that tight. So when we were
Ah.
going crazy in the crowd, thinking it was offside, it was pretty much offside.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Well,
Don't-
even you could tell the assistant referee was running, sort of went, and carried on running a bit. Then they put the flag up
But her-
quite
in her-
delayed
in-
anyways, and then
yeah.
it was like,
well, in her mind it was offside because the whole point is you're meant to wait till the end of play to
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah.
Two more things I want to pick up on. First thing, of course, I do think we mentioned it before. Keeper probably could have done better.
Yeah.
The second thing is Arsenal as a whole defensively in the first half and then the ending of the second half was shocking because Arsenal conceded.
Not much I can add to that one.
There's not much to say, but they conceded fought so hard to get back into the game. Literally hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
The better team for the whole of second half. Scored 2 minutes later. We were still celebrating. 2 minutes later, they scored. One ball straight through the middle. It was.
But that's the thing. You turn your
poor.
focus off for 1 second. You get a bit complacent, and then suddenly they just.
It's such a sucker
but
punch.
Leon were devastating. I can't lie to you. Leon were absolutely. Diani was.
I think is that the play we were like, don't. No, she's got the ball. Oh my god! Like literally the whole.
Every time.
She was literally everywhere
like
on that
it was
pitch.
her.
Yeah.
3 Arsenal defenders. And she just went through. Like there was no
she
tomorrow.
walked
Like,
through.
she
literally walked
she
through
was like,
all
guys,
three.
Let me just
Let me
pass.
just, whatever. They even had a shot at one point that was so far out and it hit the crossbar because Zinsberger was so far off and we got lucky.
Twice.
We need to bring it.
Twice we lost the ball about a third into our half.
Yeah.
And I said the first time I turned to Lewis and went, they're gonna score, Literally the next chance they had, lobbed it over the keeper and hit the bottom of the crossbar.
I just remember going, you are so lucky.
And one thing I would say is the crowd went silent from that second Leon goal to the end of the game. Absolute silent.
Oh really?
Yeah. There was quite a bit of like atmosphere. Like it was 40,000 people. Felt weird because it's a Champions League game, but it's really sunny.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of a Saturday afternoon.
On a Saturday morning.
Why are we hearing the song? Like the theme tune came
Theme
out
tune
right now.
in the sunshine.
I was like, what is going on? So it just felt weird, anyways. But it was so loud and. Like you said, up until that point, pretty much. I mean, the penalty, I think we celebrated more for the fact that we got given the penalty than the actual penalty going in, because it was just relief. I was a bit confused why Kim Little didn't take it, but I think everything else she did on the pitch, I think she was our key player because she showed that strength. And obviously it's the experience. She is one of the older players. And in the WSL, I don't think she's maybe needed as much in our midfield because we've got Marina Caldenti, Kyra Cooney-Cross. But in the Champions League game, you could tell that she really needed to be there because she was so physical. I do feel like the downfall with both English sides, like focusing on Chelsea as well, is that as English sides we kind of are quite. I think our strength is our physicality, whereas then the European sides seem to bring a bit more technicality to the game. And I mean, moving on to the Barca game, that was literally exactly what they did. They just ran rings around Chelsea, and I was so here for it. Like I was literally loving that.
Ultimate hate watch, like
literally, it made me feel better about us because I was like, actually, we have a chance because we're only one goal behind. Whereas for Chelsea,
they've got
never say never, but it's pretty much written off. No matter where they're playing, obviously it's going to be at Stamford Bridge, so it will be a home game. But you've got the likes of you've got Ballon d'Or winners in that Barca squad. Like
I think the difference
that speaks for itself.
I think the difference is it's a 3-goal gap. Which is thing. Of course, the Chelsea goal is important, but as we said, I think if you look at, they did come back against City, yes, but this Barcelona team is the favourites for this competition.
Yeah,
and they're expected to get to the final, win the final.
You did mention earlier Lauren James missing. Do you feel
that's
like
massive?
That is,
that's what I was going to say now. That's massive because going forward for Chelsea, a lot comes through her. Missing her, they have got quality players, don't get me wrong, but missing her is going to be so important because they're now going to be so much more focused on, of course, they can't let Barcelona score. If Barcelona score 1, the game's over.
Yeah.
And I think missing your key attacking player is really not what you need in a game where you need to score 4 goals to go through.
I think the fact she's not just a key attacking player, like they have other key attacking players as well,
defensively as well.
How she operates, I feel like she's actually very suited for the Barca squad because of how quick she's so quick with her feet.
She fits perfectly into that team.
She goes around players, and almost Chelsea went there with Millie Bright like dribbling out the back and then losing the ball, and mistakes that wouldn't happen in the WSL because we play a similar way, all the English sides, it seems. But Barca basically stuck to what they normally do. Chelsea stuck to what they did. And now I think in the second leg, Chelsea are going to have to adapt and think, right, we actually need to be a bit more technical. We can't just be thinking we can just body people
I think
up
that's the same with the Arsenal.
The refs will pull it up.
That's the same with Arsenal. Arsenal need to go to France and find a way of breaking down one of the best defensive teams in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, actually, on the Arsenal game, they were so good at dragging out our midfield. Like Caldenti was on the wing because they're so good at dragging out, and there was so much space. And that's why Kim Little felt like she was doing free roles.
There was literally a gap in midfield.
So how they do that is because of they've got that mindset, that technicality.
I think both clubs have a massive hill to climb. I think, of course, looking at the scoreline, Chelsea have a bigger hill to climb because they need to win 4-0 to go through. I personally can't see.
They did it last night against Palace, but
I can't.
Palace and Barcelona. Palace is like
should we compare?
Barcelona.
I can't see it happening. But It's going to be interesting, honestly. And
Okay, quick, just off the top of your head, who's going to be in the Champions League final?
Who's going to be in the Champions League final? Barcelona. Let's go Arsenal. Why
Okay,
not?
nice.
I'll back Arsenal to get to the
Thank you, I
final.
appreciate that.
I'm going to go men and women Arsenal Barcelona final.
Okay, actually, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we all.
I genuinely think Arsenal can go through.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll win it. The women, the men, yeah. But focusing on the women, I don't think that. I mean, watching Barcelona, they were scary. The way Putellas, like, she literally backheeled it into Pina, and like she's been such a good signing. They have so many good signings, and they all operate in such a similar way, but they complement each other so well that I just think, definitely.
So
Barca, they're the best in the world right now, in my
Yeah.
opinion, best club. So I don't see them dropping off. Obviously, the league's pretty much done. We know
Yeah.
Chelsea.
I think it's rounded up.
I mean, I think last night proved the quality difference from the top and bottom, because Palace are definitely going to get relegated.
Yeah.
Chelsea are definitely going to win.
30 shots to 0.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I mean, that is the separation from the top and the
Yeah.
bottom.
It's just crazy. 0 shots in 90 minutes. Like when that screenshot got put in the group chat, I was like, is that real?
The thing is, right, I thought I saw the 30 shots and was like, Jesus. It's only when he said to 0, I looked at it. I sent the screenshot. I didn't even know it was 0 shots.
I just saw the score and I was like, yeah.
I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, it was 0 shots.
Yeah, it's actually mad. It is mad. But I feel like we've actually done quite a decent
Yeah.
job, hopefully you guys think as well,
Yeah.
of actually equally catching up on all of the games. And I'm looking forward to the Champions League. I feel like WSL, because it's pretty much done. We know what's going to happen. It will be just good to see the actual positions, because obviously City, United, where they're going to finish and what points and how many goals. But the focus definitely is on the Champions League. When we come back, it will be 2 weeks' time. So then we'll
Know the final.
we'll know the final. The final wouldn't have happened.
No, we'll know the final,
know the
and then
final. And
we'll have
like
one game day left.
Yeah.
We'll have one game day left.
So it pretty much, that'll be like the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and we're gonna get more regular for you guys in the next few weeks, which will be good. If you want to subscribe to us, that'd be amazing. We do have a lot of other podcasts over here at the Blue Podcast Network. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Comment your predictions as well for both the WSL. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen with that, but it'll be good to hear from you with the Champions League, and whether you agree Barca Arsenal, which is the consensus over here, is the final. But yeah, thank you for watching.